Good morning, friends. In last lecture, we have seen what is World Wide Web, what is that World Wide Web service, how it is accessed, then what is the role of web browser, what are the different components of web browser, then how to use standard HTTP locator to access the different websites, then what are the different types of web pages, that is static web pages, dynamic web pages and active web pages we have seen. So today we are going to start the next concept, that is your HTTP protocol. So HTTP, the full form of HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is mainly used to access the data on the World Wide Web. As I told you yesterday, we are using the standard HTTP locator to fetch the different types of web pages which are located at a different websites. Okay, now this HTTP protocol is very similar to your file transfer protocol. Most of the students know what is FTP means, because we have been using that FTP for accessing the different files which are stored in our local area networks also, FTP. And SMTP, that is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, that part we'll see in a subsequent lectures. So the functionality of the HTTP is very similar to your you can say the FTP and the SMTP. Now internally, HTTP protocol makes use of transmission control protocol. Okay, but important difference is here it uses only one connection for transferring the data. There is no separate data connection and control connection as like your file transfer protocol. So let us see. Now today we are going to discuss these points in a subsequent sessions, that is HTTP transaction, conditional request, persistence, cookies, web caching, that is proxy server, and what is the security provided by the HTTP. So now let us start with the HTTP transaction. Now, as I told you, HTTP uses the services of TCP on well-known port number 80. So you always remember that HTTP makes use of the well-known port 80. Okay. Now let us try to understand what is the HTTP transaction. Now this is what your client and server. Now let us see how the client and server communicates with each other. Now let us see, the client has made the request to the server to fetch the particular web page, that may be static, dynamic or active web page from the server. Now yesterday we have seen the client sends the request to the server accepts the request, server processes the request, and then server sends you the response. Now let us see, this is the response. Now when we focus on the request message, actually it has the different components in it. It is true in case of response message also. Now when we focus on the request message, which is sent by the client to the server, it has the request line, that is the first parameter, request line. Next one is the header. Next one is the blank line, which separates the header part and the body part. The body part actually carries the data. Now generally when we are using the different types of web application, we never care about what are the different parameters which are passed from our request to the server. But as a computer engineer, you must know what is that request means, what are the different components of the request, and what are the parameters we are passing to the server, so that server gives you the proper response. Now today we'll see all these parameters in the detail part. Now when the server accepts the request and processes the request, at that time it sends the response message also. But response message it has also different components like status line, different types of headers, blank line, and the body. Now today we'll see what is that request message and response message components. Now when client sends the request message to the server and server gives the response message back to the client, then we are calling it as a STTP, single STTP transaction. When request and response messages are exchanged, then it is called as a HTTP transaction. Now let us see what is the request message means. Now this is what the format of the request message. Now whenever we try to access the different types of web pages from the websites, we are making the request, and when we make the request, all these parameters which are shown in this particular diagram are passed to the server. Now let us see one by one what are the different components and the specific parameters which are passed to the server. The first component is what? The request line. First component is what? Request line. It has again different parameters like method, URL and the version. Okay, so after the method you will see SP. SP stands for space, means all these parameters are separated by the space. Then there is if you see the header part, you will see what? Header name, colon, then space, followed by the value which is assigned to that header name. After that what? Carriage returns and the line feed to separate the different lines. So request line has different parameters like method, URL and version. Header lines contains different types of headers. Okay, then next one is a blank line, and the last one is what? Body part, which has variable number of lines depending upon the request. Now let us try to understand what is the method means. Okay, so now let us see what are the different types of methods. Now if you see this table, now you will see here the different types of methods which are used as a part of the request message. Now the first method is what? The get. It is a get which is written in a capital letter. Get methods specifies what? Client is making a request from the server to send the document. So clients makes a request to the server to send the document. That is the meaning get. When you use the head method as a parameter of head as a parameter, then it indicates to the server that the client is not interested in the document, but it is interested in the header part of that document only. Now next method is what? Post. The post method is what? If client want to upload something on the server, in that case we are using post method. Okay, now put method. Put method, what is the significance of the put method? When you mention the method as a put, in that case the client the server sends the document to the client. Next method is what? Trace. Trace is what? Now when you make any request to the server, at that time the server echoes back same request to the client again. That is a trace. Connect, it is a reserve. Delete, to remove the specific web page, you can pass this method also, delete as a method. Then option is what? It inquires about available options. It inquires about available options. That is what? The methods. So these are the different types of methods supported by the HTTP protocol, okay, as a part of HTTP request message. Now let us see the next. Now next part is what? After that request method, there are request header. Now when you observe this carefully, what are the different types of request headers? These are the user agent, accept character set, accept encoding, accept language, authorization, host, date, upgrade, cookie, and if modified, since. So what is the significance of using this header? This headers provides the additional information about the client to the server. Okay, then what is the use of these headers? Based upon the values which are associated with the header, server accordingly prepares the response, okay, and sends you back the proper response on your side. If we are not setting all these header parameters and simply sending the request message to the server, then the whatever may be the response given by the server may not be properly displayed in your window. Okay, because server will never come to know what are the different types of encoding style which is supported by the client, okay, what are the languages supported by the client, okay, what is the character set supported by the client, Okay, if server don't know all these parameters, then server on its own prepares the response and sends you back. That may not be supported by your browser. So it is necessary to set the values of all these headers while sending the request. Now let us see what is the first header parameter. The first header parameter is what? User agent. So now user agent is what? It informs to the server the user agent, means the browser which you are using for making the request. Okay, that is nothing but your user agent. Next part is what? Accept. So accept indicates what are the different types of the medias which are supported by the browser. Okay, then next one is accept character set, accept encoding, and accept language is what? These are what the different types of encoding style, different types of character set, and different types of languages which are supported by your browser. Okay, now next one is what? Authorization. Means server wants to know what are the permissions, what are the permissions, means the client, what are the permissions as the client has. Okay, that is called as what? Authorization. Now next one is on host, means server wants to know what is the information about the host from which that request has received. Now client want to send the current date, okay, to the server, so that server can identify what is the current date at current date and time. Okay, so that it can server can understand whether it is a fresh request or very old request. Okay, to handle the security issues. Now next one is what? Upgrade is what? It is specifies the preferred communication protocol that may be supported by the client. And the next parameter is what? The cookie. What is that cookie? That cookie is what? It returns the cookie to the server. Now what is that cookie? We'll see that part later. But cookie is what? It is used to identify the specific request made by the different clients. Okay, so we'll see the next part, that is a response, in my next